welcome to Dream Stories.
Why, thank you. I'm very glad to be here. Because, okay. You always tell me you thought you were welcome. I was welcoming you.
I know. I'm glad
so.
you. I'm glad you.
Welcome to everybody to Dream
I'm
Stories.
glad you feel welcome.
Well, we are recording back to back with last week's episode because we talked about bears and the mountains, and what I really wanted to talk about, although that was really good, I thought that was a good conversation about the bears.
Right.
But what I'd planned on us talking about last week was.
Are you saying we didn't talk about what we were supposed to talk about?
No, we talked about exactly what Holy Spirit wanted us to talk about.
Okay, you said symbolism, right?
Yeah, we did talk about symbolism, but I was thinking broadly about lots of different symbols from nature and creation, and we ended up being focused on a single instant with a bear chasing you through the streets of Gatlinburg.
You enjoyed every minute of that podcast.
I did. That was so awesome. I just loved getting to talk about a bear chasing you through the streets of Gatlinburg.
For a moment, I thought you were a little jealous that I saw the bear and was.
I was jealous.
Sort of
There's
chased.
no sort of or thought to it. I was very jealous that you saw the bear. I ran up the hill to see the bear. You remember?
Oh, yes, I do remember. Okay.
So, we talked about bears.
Right.
So we don't have to talk about that symbol.
Okay, I'll quit.
But, no, it's okay. But I thought let's talk about the other symbols from creation, from nature, and from the beautiful things around us. And so we decided we would just go right into recording another episode because while this episode is airing, we're actually going to be, or as people are hearing it, we are, up in the Boston area where I was speaking at a church on the North Shore, and we're taking some time away for just
a few days.
A few days. We're not going to get to do anything during our anniversary month, our anniversary in December. So we're going to go away and take. Well, I mean, we're not going to get to go away necessarily.
Okay.
So we're going to make sure we get a little bit of time with the trip to Boston. I'm not saying we won't do anything else. I'm just saying.
But usually we're very pressed. It's holiday time. Yeah.
So,
okay, good.
So at any rate, we are currently
symbols.
hanging out in Boston while you're watching us in a pre-recorded broadcast of Dream Stories.
Yeah.
Or you're listening to us, whichever one.
We should record one more while we're in Boston.
We should. That'd be fun.
Yeah.
So
anyway,
talk about symbols for a minute. Talk about deer.
Okay, talk about deer. So, I was thinking today, my niece, she actually hit a deer with her car this week. And, oh my gosh, Michael, she said, her daddy said, "No, where did you have the wreck?" And she told him it was on Seacart Hollow Road. And he said, "Okay." And she said, "But the deer didn't have antennae."
The deer didn't have antennae.
Daryl didn't understand what she said. I started laughing so hard. I said, and Daryl said, "What are you laughing at?" I said, "She said the deer didn't have antennae. She's talking about the tines."
Yeah. So I brought. Lisa said she was seeing the deer across the room.
Yeah.
The antler. So this is a deer skull. This is called a European mount. This would be very different in your dream than seeing a live deer with fur all over its face.
Right.
Eyeballs in its sockets and things like that. This would be like maybe from a nightmare.
Yeah, I don't care for this. Now, I wouldn't mind just the top part and it being a true
Just
European mount. Right.
No, this is a true European mount. That would just be the antlers. But
okay,
antlers
I agree to disagree. We'll agree to disagree.
Right. So anyway.
But I wouldn't mind just the little skull cap and the. But that looks. You're right.
Well,
that does look
look
nightmarish.
creepy, so,
you know what? And so if I had this in a dream, my first thought is. Out west, cattle, when it was very dry.
Like a cattle skull.
A cattle skull. That's what it reminded me of, which would
When you
represent.
talk about that, I'm going to put the deer back away.
Okay,
So
which would represent possibly like death, dying, lack of nutrition, something drying out. That would be my thought on a symbol of a skull. Now, depending on what kind of skull, could change the whole meaning of something. If I see a deer one. That could mean something precious to me, right? A deer one has dried up, or
but it could.
A deer one is drying
up. Their spirit's dried up.
Yeah,
there's no life left in it.
That sounds so weird.
But it could also, the other side of that coin is it could, for a hunter like me, who I love to deer hunt. It's part of my time I get away and I'm quiet in the woods. It's not really always about acquiring. I'm trying to be sensitive to folks who are acquiring a deer for
Yes.
food purposes
Right.
for our home. So, because we eat a lot of venison. It's not always about that. Sometimes it's just about being in the woods and being quiet. But for me as a hunter, it's a trophy. And so
That's where people are going to get mad at you.
Well, I'm talking
'Cause
about
it's
the
a trophy.
symbolism of it. It's considered a trophy.
It is. You're a hunter.
And you're, as a hunter, it's considered
Sure.
a mark of achievement or
Right.
something to remind you of that event or that encounter.
Right.
So it could be a reminder.
Yeah.
It could be like a memorial stone, if you think about Scripture, where they've mounted the stones up to remind them of something. And I actually have mounts where I wrote on the plaque, like I have a taxidermied mount of a deer that's written underneath it, provision, because it was the circumstances under which that deer was taken by me on the hunt. What was a very much a mark of God's provision. It was a metaphor played out in life. And so for me, that particular deer, if it showed up in a dream, would have a very personal meaning.
Right.
It would have the meaning of provision. God was bringing provision.
Yeah.
So you can have very personal meanings for symbols. You can have that European Mount Skull type meaning that would speak of drying up or death or things like that. But that could also speak of, something that is a memorial, a reminder of something in certain cases.
What about like a boar? We talked about things in nature in the mountains. So a boar, a wild boar, which we have a lot of in the South, especially.
Yeah, we do. We see a lot of those, and they're considered oftentimes. Now, remember what we talk about here when we do these episodes on symbols. We're not looking at the idea of an absolute meaning for a symbol. We're looking at the ways we evaluate and listen to the Spirit of God for the meaning. We're having conversation about characteristics, qualities, attributes of the whatever the
We're not
symbol
trying to
is.
get you to have a dream dictionary that we have created for you.
Right.
However, you may find that your dream dictionary is slightly different from mine based on life experience.
Yeah, you have a dream. Everybody has a dream language. We can't get dependent upon that dream language, because when we do, it gets mixed up a little bit. The Holy Spirit will mix things up to make us stay dependent upon listening to His voice. But when we talk about a wild boar, for example, in Alabama, in our area, those would be considered nuisances or pests, things that dig up the crops that are growing. They root up and unearth food crops. So a wild boar would tend to represent something that undermines the growth process.
And sometimes somewhat dangerous, right?
Yes, they can be dangerous.
And the boar that we have in our area, so see, this would be a specific thing to our area. If someone had a wild boar in their dream, even and if that person happened to be a Southerner, it would put even an extra meaning on it. If the person who had the dream were a hunter, that would put an extra meaning on the dream.
Yes, it would add
give
potential
emphasis.
meanings,
It really would. And
that's why we talk about context.
Right.
Context has so much importance to understanding what a dream means.
And that's why we ask people sometimes, what were you feeling? What was your overall feeling in the dream? Happy, sad, nothingness, But, like the boar in our area, they have crossbred wild boar with domestic
hogs.
and so they get larger than what they should be getting because they were bred for feeding people.
And on the positive side, they're very prolific in reproduction.
Yeah.
So there is something to be said about reproducing yourself and overcoming adversity to reproduce.
Right.
That would be a positive.
Provision.
Both provision and
Yeah.
just that whole whole idea of giving what you have into another generation.
Right.
Raising up a generation type
Yeah.
thing. So you never want to look just at a negative or just at a positive meaning. You want the Spirit of God to give you insight into which is the right way to go.
Okay, well, let's talk about the positive and the negative side of a symbol sometimes. So if someone has a dream and it seems it's positive to them, they're like, oh, it was awesome. Can there be a corrective nature in a positive dream?
Absolutely.
Yeah, and a lot of people would say, oh, no, you wouldn't have a correction in a positive dream,
Well,
yeah,
a corrective dream can be extremely positive. It helps
it's
you
a good
to
thing.
avoid something that could have caused harm
Right.
down the road. That's a positive.
Right.
So you could have a negative meaning of a dream, of a symbol in a dream
Mm-hmm.
that actually is negative in a positive dream or in a positive way
Right.
in the dream. And it helps you to identify and recognize that there's something that needs to be overcome or turned aside from or dealt with. And so if you see the wild boar that's digging up the crops and ruining the farmer's crops, it's ruining provision, it's ruining food, it's ruining the sustenance of what's growing in the area, and a hunter shoots that deer in your dream, it was a negative symbol, but it's saying that the dream would say that God is going to stop what is destroying the growth in your life.
Yeah.
And you can say, I don't like hunting. We can all disagree on what we like or don't
Right.
like about something. I'm okay with it. But the symbolism of it has impact. And some people may say, well, I'm opposed to hunting, so hunting would be a bad symbol. But it wouldn't be in that case. It would be positive.
Right.
And, well, but I love wildlife, so I don't think there should be a negative meaning to the wild boar. But it was in that case, in that dream. So you can't take your preconceived ideas into the dream with you in the interpretive process.
That's
you
right.
have to look at it. And that's true even when you're looking at positives. You think about a beautiful deer by a stream in the mountains that's lapping up the water of a stream and just a little doe eyes looking at you and everything. For a Christian like me, the simple thing is to think of, as the deer pants for the water, so my soul longs for God. And it would be really easy to assume, oh, well, that's the meaning of that deer in my dream being by the water. And it would be an accurate, likely meaning. But there could be other meanings, too. There could be a meaning that related to nervous tension. The deer can't seem to drink for having to constantly look up and look out for danger. So there could be a negative there, that there's something hidden that's creating apprehension or fear.
Yeah.
And so we have to look at the context to really get the specific meaning. And then beyond context, we have to listen to the Spirit of God.
Okay. What if you have something that's kind of in the same family? So let's just say, in our area, bobcats are common.
Yeah.
But a mountain lion you don't see as often. I mean, I have never seen a mountain lion
Right.
in the wild. I've never seen one.
Right.
Supposedly there are, well, I don't think Alabama has officially recognized it.
We actually
But-
have begun to say that they do occasionally, they're occasionally seen in the state.
Yeah.
But that's a very recent development.
But that they don't even have resident.
Right.
I mean, they're not
They don't have
resident
residents.
animals. Yeah, they don't
Yeah,
have an official card that
They
says
don't-
you're a
right.
resident of the
They're
state of
technically
Alabama.
an alien.
Nomadic.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay. Anyway, so so if you have in a dream, say, two things from a cat family, and let's just say I have a dream, and I'm in the dream, I'm walking down the street, and a mountain lion comes up to me and licks my hand. Fine. So that we can understand the meaning of that in a second. And then you have the same dream, only this time it's not a mountain lion, it's a bobcat. It comes up, I'm walking down the street, it comes up to me and licks me on the hand. How different of an interpretation would that be for that dream?
Okay, so without getting into the interpretation of what the licking your hand means, we could be looking at things like a difference in quantity, a difference in quality, a difference in a size attribute, because they're both cats. So a house cat, a bobcat, a mountain lion are progressively larger. They're progressively more influential or more dangerous in one sense, you would say.
Yeah.
They're progressively less domesticated. So you see the things like that. You would look at the distinction. You'd say, why a bobcat, not a house cat? Why a mountain lion, not a bobcat? Why this, not that? It's a great place to ask that type of question. And it would often have to do with size or impact.
Okay.
Not 100% of the
Right,
time,
right.
but very often. Now you say it's licking your hand; it doesn't attack you. A bobcat's not likely to attack you; it's probably going to run from you. A house cat's going to lick your hand because it's domesticated and affectionate.
Right.
Maybe we know cats can be contagious.
If a mountain lion licks you, he's getting ready to eat you.
Well, that's the issue. A mountain lion would normally be more likely to attack.
Yeah.
So if a mountain lion licks your hand, the significance of the relationship would be emphasized.
Yeah.
Because it would be outside the normal. If a
True.
bobcat licks your hand, it would be outside the normal. One would run away. One would be more likely to eat you. So which direction you're outside of
Right.
normal?
Not
would
a
have
question
impact.
if a house cat's licking your hand. They do that.
They do that, right?
Mountain lions do
It's
not.
it's a sign of relationship.
Yeah.
For a house
Right.
cat. For a mountain lion, it's almost like saying, "I'll make even your enemies to
At
become
peace.
at peace with you."
That's good.
Type of a situation. So
Okay.
yeah. What about just this? We talked about or mentioned the deer by the stream. What about a stream of mountain water running down? We stopped when we were in the Smoky Mountains
Yeah.
along the side of the road and went down to a beautiful crystal clear mountain stream. What would something like that represent in a dream?
For me, it would be well. I'm going to ask things like: is it clear? Is it rushing? Is it so loud I can't hear? Or is it very soothing? So for me, it would be very therapeutic to be near a mountain stream. For me,
Yeah, so it could be restfulness or
right?
peacefulness.
It can be depending on the context. It could also be: are you in the flow of things? Are you in the stream? Are you in the flow of which way are you going? Are you walking upstream? Are you going against the stream? Are you going with the stream?
Are you in the stream, in the flow of things?
That's what I
or
meant,
are you
yeah.
watching it? That's
Yeah,
what I mean.
yeah.
And there is a
Refreshing,
scripture that I
yeah.
don't remember where it's at right now, but if you're watching or listening, you can look it up. That gives an indication that the voice of God is like a rushing water, or like rushing water. So that sound of rushing water would be could also have an impact in the dream of God desiring to speak to you.
Yeah. Yeah, so for me it would be refreshing, I would
Yeah.
think. I think you even may have even talked about that one day, just wanting to just reach down and take a sip, of something, and
It draws you to it.
It
So that
does.
would have some meaning. In
the other
process.
thing is streams, especially like in the Smoky Mountains, you see a lot of stones that have been smoothed over because, water seems somewhat soothing, right? But over time, the friction of the water over the stone smooths it to where it's beautiful.
So a stream can be an instrument that smooths out the rough edges. It takes the jagged
time.
parts out, but it also takes a great amount of time to accomplish that
Right,
purpose.
right.
Yeah, and I think that would be looking at not just the stream, but let's say the smooth stones in the stream. They could represent people or situations or circumstances that over a great amount of time have been smoothed out or made more well-rounded.
Yeah.
You might say. And again, you look for things like word plays and puns and characteristics and attributes and qualities and colloquialisms and all these kind of things. And you create kind of a filing system in your mind, is the way I put it, of these possible meanings that are related in some way to the symbol, but you're waiting on the Spirit of God to say it's that one.
Yeah.
That's why when we talk about symbols, we can't say, oh, a symbol means this.
Yeah.
We talk about its possible meanings.
And we should always be open to, even if we think we know what something means because we've seen it a lot or that's always been the case, we need to always be open to, oh, wow, maybe this has a different meaning here,
Yeah, it's good. And I was thinking about other things we think of in nature, and so birds of various kinds come to mind. And
so we're not limited to animals.
no, we're not limited to animals. We did streams.
I know you did
and we
streams, but I
rocks
just
and-
thought you just threw that wild card in there. So, okay.
Okay, you want to talk about something other
Well,
than birds?
I'm thinking about leaves and the color of trees, like during leaf change.
Oh, I like that. Go with that when
Yeah.
we come back to birds. I was
So
thinking about owls for some reason.
I was
don't know
thinking
why.
about
So,
owls too. I was too. I was going to ask you if you were going to think about owls.
Yeah.
But,
So, but go ahead with leaves.
Okay,
then.
so leaves. So I think about well, it could be a pun, a play on words. Leave.
Yeah, leave. Mm-hmm.
There's a scriptural reference to leaves healing nations, right?
Healing nations. Or if it's a single leaf instead of a leave, it could be a chapter of your life. It could be a page in your story. You know, the leaves of a book,
leaf
of
of
a
page.
book, of
Yeah,
a
a
page.
leaf of a page.
So,
Okay, that's good.
mhm.
I was also thinking about it can represent changing seasons in your life. You may have been
Yes.
in a winter season where things seem dry and cold and no life, and you think things are dead. But spring is coming and new leaves are coming. So depending
or what
on
about
what
evergreens in the midst of winter that
True.
says even though you're in a very cold time, a dark time maybe, there's still life available to you. Or
Yeah.
the color changes of the fall that you can say, oh, well, that means you're losing life. Things are going away. No, that talks about a vibrance and a beauty that comes even in a time of loss.
yeah.
So there's all these beautiful things with leaves that I think could
That's
come
awesome.
into play. So,
Owls.
we're jumping now back to
Owls.
animals.
Yeah, yeah.
You have to know.
I'm mixing it up.
I like animals. I used to sit
Yeah.
and just watch for hours, like Discovery Channel,
Oh,
Animal
yeah.
Planet, and stuff like that. So when you want to talk to me about symbolism for animals, I'm all there because I love it. So
Okay.
owls, the typical thing people think of as wisdom, the wise old owl.
I think they're great hunters too.
They're very great hunters, excellent eyesight,
Keen
and
eyesight.
excellent hearing.
Yeah.
So their discernment is very strong, and their vision or their capacity to see is great.
Yeah. I mean, even, little owls' heads can turn almost all the way around,
Yeah.
So, but even the type of owl could have shed some light on
Well,
the
you
meaning
look
of a
at it,
dream.
never say always positive or always negative. What about an owl called the screech owl? The whole name kind of says, oh, this is something you really don't want to hear.
Yeah.
This is a
Yeah.
screech, and it doesn't really sound that way. But
Right.
this is something that could be grating
Right.
on your nerves or something.
A great horned owl.
Great horned owl. Yeah, what do you think about that one?
I think they are big.
Mm-hmm.
And they don't have a bad sound.
No, they don't.
Mm-hmm.
I think you think about a great horned owl, you think about something that
More majestic.
that's more majestic or the horned. It's actually the ears and the way the
Tufts.
ears are the tufts around the ears that stick up.
Yeah.
So significant levels of discernment.
Right.
You got the word place, the horn, the great horned owl. What does a horn mean then? You come
Right.
into the sound of an alarm,
Yeah.
call to battle.
Yeah.
You got lots of different things that come into play when you start looking at specifics. as
Yeah. I
opposed
think
to
they're one of the
generalities.
largest owls, aren't
They're
they?
they're pretty big. They're one of the larger. I don't know if they're
We
the
should have had
largest, but-
Jacob in here for
Yeah, he
this
could
one.
have helped us with this
Oh,
because he's
yeah.
an owl person. He's a raptor person.
Yeah, he really is.
He thinks of things like he helped with the Eagles when he was at Auburn,
Yeah.
and so he likes. What about eagles then? By the way,
Are you asking
yeah,
me right
I'm
now?
asking you. Yeah,
Well, they're a raptor as well, of
They are.
course.
Mhm.
And so they're large,
Mhm.
a great hunter as well. Well, for me, an eagle would mean victory because I'm an Auburn fan. So, but some people would say not always.
Yeah.
They wouldn't always be victorious. But for me, it's a battle cry or something because of one of my favorite teams. That's the mascot. So I know that may not be typical for most
But
people.
no, that's a
but-
valid way of looking at a
But
symbol.
I think if you asked an Alabama fan, somebody who loves the football, Southern
a
football,
big pachyderm,
an
would be
elephant
more
or
symbolic.
a huge wave, because that is what
Crimson Tide,
So
right.
yeah,
And you
what
know,
do you think an eagle means?
Well, I think of an eagle. You mount up on wings of eagles. You run and not be weary. You walk and not faint.
Oh,
you
you're gonna
go
get
scriptural
spiritual?
things. You get biblical. You've got the whole idea of
Yeah.
the prophetic or revelatory nature of
Yeah.
things that comes into play. You could say, though, the eagles also represent, more colloquially, they represent patriotism or commitment to country and things of that nature.
Yeah.
So, those are things that they can mean.
Yeah, that's cool.
Yep. So,
Yeah. patriotism because the U.S. being on all of the top of a flag.
Yeah, flagpole.
Flagpole.
Type things, yeah. So what else? What do you think? What other symbols in nature? We sort of jumped out of the mountains. Well, most of our things.
No.
Maybe wild boars are not. Yeah, they're still in the
No,
mountains too.
those
So,
are all
yeah,
mountainous
okay.
things. Rabbits,
Rabbits. What do you think?
turtles.
Well, go with some of them. What do you think about them?
Well, rabbits would be a prolific reproduction. What did I say? I said rabbits. Turtles are slow, but slow and steady wins the race.
They have a very protective characteristics.
Yes.
They're able to, you could say positive or negative. They can withdraw into their shell. That would mean isolationism or withdrawing from things, but it could also be self-preservation and protectiveness.
Right. How about those? Don't underestimate them. Like, I know we said slow and steady wins the race, but what about the big snapping turtle that can stick his neck out further than you think he can and can reach around and almost bite your finger off?
We don't even have time to talk about the time we ran into a snapping turtle on the roadside in the mountains.
Yes.
And I tried to help it get across the road.
Yes.
You know,
He won't ever.
Why did the chicken cross the road? This was why did the snapping turtle cross the road?
Whose fault was that?
Well, okay.
It was mine.
Yeah,
I made you.
You insisted I go
because
back and
it was
help
a
the turtle
huge
across
turtle in the middle of the road.
Now we have to tell the story. Though.
No,
so
you don't have time.
I got it. But real quick, we're driving down the road. You get to tell the bear story last week.
Okay,
I tell the snapping
that's
turtle
true.
story this week. So we're driving down the road, and this huge, 2.5 feet maybe from front to back of shell, maybe 3 feet, is a big snapping turtle.
Does it
grow? It grows every time I tell the story. Right? I don't know. It was a big
bear
snapping
was
turtle.
a grizzly bear, but
No,
go ahead.
no, anyway, so the point being, you wanted me to help it get across the road because you were afraid someone was going to hit it with a car.
Yes.
And I got out and tried multiple ways to use my authority to move this turtle, like reaching down to pick it up. The problem was the snapping turtle's head reaches way back on its shell.
Yes.
And I came, like within centimeters of getting my hands bitten off.
Yes.
Well, probably not bitten off.
No, I think it was very
a big enough head. His head was as big as my
How
fist.
did you finally get him across?
I grabbed a big stick and just pushed
Scooted
it
him.
out of the road. Yeah,
That's smart.
I took authority.
That was smart.
Over it. So you've got these aggression. You've got things to do with sort of a violent attack. But you also have this idea there, if it were in a dream, it would be about using wisdom in the way you exercise authority. So there's so many things that nature creates beautiful symbolism for dreams. I love nature in dreams.
Right. So. That's awesome. How long ago was that? About 20 years ago?
That was almost 20 years ago, and I still remember it to this day like it was yesterday. The thought of that snapping turtle reaching its head around to try and take off it was on our first opportunity
to teach
on hearing
symbols
God and dreams and symbols and things. Yeah, it really was. It's cool.
I hyperventilated.
Oh, yes, you did. It's true. Well, we are out of time again. It seems like it goes by so fast when we're on a roll like that.
Yes.
So, but
okay, no more leg cramps.
No more leg cramps, right? And no more bears chasing us, and
right.
no more snapping turtles eating our fingers.
That's right. That's right.
But until then, we just remind you guys again, like, share, and subscribe the different mechanisms with us, and let us know you're out there. We like knowing that people are actually listening.
Yeah.
It just does make us feel like
it does encourage us.
Yeah.
Yes.
So do make those comments and share and subscribe and like and all that kind of stuff. And with that, we are out of time. So you gonna do it again or me?
Until next time, keep dreaming.